Hi everybody, Sandy Phillips here and welcome to Atheism UK's podcast. Got Esther with us, we've got Guy and Rich. Hello everybody, how you doing?
Hello. Not bad.
Now,
Have tea and will travel.
we've been talking for quite a bit before about something completely different. So it's like we've been on it. It feels like we've been on here for hours. But listen, we're going to be talking today about a subject which I sort of pulled up because in our social media, we get a lot of people sort of talking, both theists and atheists talking about different subjects and stuff. And we often get things about creation, about, the nature of human beings, where we go when we die, and all those sort of things. And one of the things that's happened over the last few months that I've noticed is that there's a guy called Hugh Ross, Dr. Hugh Ross, who has a PhD. He's an astrophysicist, and he's a Christian apologist as well. And some of the stuff that he's been putting out there, or some of the people that have been talking about the arguments that we have, these PRATT arguments that we talked about a little while ago, previously refuted 1,000 times arguments. Whenever these sort of things come up, this guy has been sort of put forward as, well, Hugh Ross is a scientist and he believes in God. He's an astrophysicist and he believes in God. So, and then he put a little video in, and so I started watching some of these videos, and I put them out to you guys so you can have a quick look at them. And it's sort of really interesting because a lot of stuff he does is about, like, there's a lot of science in there, but then he goes to this leap of faith to where this is all done because of God, and he's a proper apologist. I mean, he goes up on stage in churches and does apologetic speeches and things like that.
He's even written books, hasn't he?
Yeah, written books. I just read the last one, or read most of the last one. I haven't actually quite finished it yet because I only started a couple of days ago, and I've been working and stuff. I've been doing stuff of life.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, after Christmas, it's like come down with a crash. Yeah, you've got to go back to work and do stuff. But have any of you guys had a look at the stuff that this guy's done, Hugh Ross?
Yes, I've had a brief look, and I always try to call myself I'm the lay person, right? Layman. Don't understand too much philosophy and all these things. Just look at the basics. And I with this gentleman, Hugh Ross, I see this whole the God of the gaps argument. When we don't know what the answer, when we don't know who did it, just insert a God in there somewhere.
And it's always who did it. They always ask it as who did it rather than what did it. But yeah, carry on. Interesting point.
It's just, I think most of his work, he accepts the science, he accepts most of the what the scientists are saying, but at the end of it, he inserts his God in there somewhere. And I think a lot of religious people don't want that. They want to see their religion in opposition to God. To science, right? They I don't know, how do you fit science and how do you fit their religion? Some people, and I think he's one of them, he wants to say the science and religion work together. They all some will even go as far as trying to tell you that their holy books actually confirms what the scientists are saying. You can find what the scientists are saying. Oh, it's in Revelations. Oh, it's in the Muslims will tell you, oh, Allah predicted that. Allah said it. It was in guys.
If you happen to be asked to debate someone in regard to creationism and science and the differences, what is the most overwhelming, compelling starting thing that you start with to try to convince someone of creation?
It would be the space-time theorems, which prove that there must be a causal agent beyond space and time that creates this universe of matter, energy, space, and time. And then I would follow that up with dark energy, where we get the most spectacular scientific evidence for the supernatural, superintelligent design of the universe for the benefit of human beings. Those would be my two starting points.
Oh, yeah. Important the point you made there, actually, about one of the things they're trying to do is end this conflict between religion and science. I think that the problem there is they are irreconcilable by their nature. Religion is a matter of faith, which we've discussed before, with its various definitions, but generally means believing something regardless, or in fact in spite of what the evidence says, whereas science is about following the evidence wherever it leads. But the idea is, the God of the gaps issue, I think, is where this guy is coming from. He actually makes claims that his religious claims are testable, but when you actually examine them, he'll start off by giving you the science, which is great. And let's face it, as Esther said, a lot of lay people often don't understand the science. Those of us that do try to understand it as best we can see the science that's being come there. And then all of a sudden, God appears and sort of jumps in, effectively takes credit for it, or he gives credit, because God can't take credit, because let's face it, there isn't a God out there to take credit, but he gives credit to the God because we don't know any better, effectively. He will make that leap. He will make that leap of why something has happened. We don't know, therefore it's God, therefore God has been proven. No, that is a classic logical fallacy, a combination of God of the gaps, which itself is a form of the argument from incredulity. I can't think, or I can't imagine of any other reason why this could be, therefore it must be God. And because it must be God, they think that God has been proven. And of course, there are errors there as far as I can see in terms of reasoning, because nothing must be God. If we don't know, we don't know. But interestingly, when you said earlier that he accepts the science, well, actually, in a lot of ways, he doesn't accept the science. I mean, he's an old Earth creationist, which I suppose makes him one step better than young Earth creationists. He does agree with the old Earth, but he actually rejects a lot of science, especially, funnily enough, if you wander into biology. Obviously, he's not a biologist; he's a physicist, an astrophysicist. But for example, he rejects the concept of speciation within theory of evolution by natural selection, despite the fact that we have clear evidence of speciation, where we have observed new species branching off from other species. He rejects it, and he actually claims that evolution is impossible in anything but bacteria. Well, I don't know why bacteria are special.
He rejects evolution. He also rejects abiogenesis.
Yeah.
Which is, it's interesting to me that what is actually happening here is he has in the book, basically he was a skeptic. He was basically an atheist when he first started doing this. He got a telescope when he was sort of young and that sort of thing. This is what I remember from reading
or at
the
least
book.
he claims he was.
Yeah, you can only go on what people claim. You got to sort of do it in the best sort of. You got to believe people when they say something in a book. You have to start with. You can.
Until you find out that they are actually not being truthful.
Yeah. But that could be true for everybody. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, Rich.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea to start with.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But what he was saying is that it didn't make any sense to him until he picked up a Gideon Bible. Now, straight away, I just went, what? Because I know the Gideon bomb. The sort of stuff that we do all the time is that someone will say something, and the first thing we do is go and look it up. Go and look up anything. If someone says Genesis 21, then we'll go and have a look at Genesis 21. But he looked at the Gideon Bible, and apparently it all became clear that it's all down to this is basically saying exactly what science is saying about the creation of this universe. So
even though that there are internal contradictions within the first two chapters of or two verses even of the, or is it chapters? I can't remember if it's chapters or verses, but there's a direct incompatibility within the first two chapters of Genesis.
Yeah,
it makes it all clear. Okay.
Yeah, no, but see, the thing is, what people will do when they're trying to shoehorn some theory in, they'll read it how they want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what he's done. I've read, as I say, I've read the book as much as I possibly can. I haven't got quite to the end yet. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. He really sort of goes on the sort of teleological fine-tuning argument. Really bangs on about that quite a lot. And we know that the fine-tuning argument has been debunked how many 1,000 times? Maybe 20 million times? I don't know. It's like it just seems to go on and on and on. So whenever it comes out, the same old argument comes out. But what I think he's done, which is quite clever, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, is because, and I think it's going to shoot them in the foot. I think it's going to shoot theism in the foot eventually because of these new types of apologists. You know where you are with Ken Ham and Ray Comfort. They're Bible literalists. I mean, they're completely wrong, and what they say sounds completely bonkers.
Because it is.
At least they're consistent, and you know exactly where you stand with them. The problem with that I think they're going to have here is that when you actually read the book, there's some really good, solid science and science that I recognise. Stuff I've read from Stephen Hawking's book and all those sort of things. And there's a lot of stuff that sort of aligns with what Sean Carroll talks about, which is it's recognisable science. But as Esther says, you get to a certain point, and he'll say something like, and this shows a transcendent beginning to the universe. Now, that's technically right. Transcendent just means outside of our human experience. Okay. Well, the beginning of the universe could be outside of our human experience because it was before time and space. So technically it's transcendent. But then he puts in what transcendence means is God. And so consequently, you've lost me straight away, and anybody who reads science in a specific type of way, in other words, the way it's supposed to be read. But what he's got this stuff that he's put into his book now is going to be read by religious people. And
but read by lay people who don't have the scientific knowledge to interpret the science, will accept the science, and therefore will accept all the rest of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine, but it's going to be these books are built like apologetics in itself. These books are built for people who believe in God, but are really quite dodgy on the Ray Comfort side. They really don't get that that young Earth creationist stuff, the literalist stuff in the Bible. They want to hear this. They want to hear that it's much more aligned to what they consider to be the real world. The problem, I think, is that once they start getting into the science, they go, oh, that was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed the science. They're going to go and get a Stephen Hawking book or a Sean Carroll book, or, and then and these guys are going to say, put God to one side. It's like, there's no God necessary. And so I think eventually these new creationists are going to be quite a boon for us, I think, because it's going to expose people to science.
Can I? It's something I was looking up an article, and I read up something that says Ross argues that science alone can drive men to the correct understanding of our origins, and hence see the necessity of a creator. How can you argue that science alone can drive men to the correct understanding of our origins, and in the same breath say that they would then see the necessity of a creator?
I can answer this. When you actually read his book, that's his angle. That just look at the science; it proves God, and that this is his angle.
Because
Which is
he does accept the Big Bang theory. He accepts that, and he accepts just some of the other scientific. I think, in my opinion, I think he's trying to pander to both sides. He's trying to these people who like to be in between somewhere, right? So if you're atheist, you can, oh yeah, he's making some sense. He's moving one step forward. He's getting there slowly. If you're religious but you still struggle with some of the, because I think the Catholic Church, they believe it. I think the Big Bang theory. I think if
It was a Catholic priest that actually came up with the idea.
Right. So I think he's trying to just be in between somewhere, a bit of here, a bit of there. But then the scripture says, God does not like you to be lukewarm. He doesn't want you to be you're either hot or you're cold. There's no in betweens with God.
You will see that one of the things that he does with the Big Bang Theory. I've got the book up on screen here, and he'll talk about Arnold Penzias and Robert Wilson about the discovery of the universe beginning with a hot Big Bang creation event, and he'll talk about Edwin Hubble and sort of the galaxies, the expansion of the galaxies, redshift, and he'll talk all about those things, the things that we know about the science of the Big Bang. But then he'll put in, and I'll read this out so you actually get this. He'll talk about all the science, and it's completely recognizable as, modern understanding of the Big Bang theory. He'll talk about that, and then he'll say, all these scientists, however, were upstaged at least 2,500 years earlier by Job, Moses, David, Jeremiah, and other biblical authors. The Bible's prophets and apostles stated explicitly and repeatedly the two most fundamental properties of the Big Bang: a transcendent cosmic beginning, a finite time period ago, and a universe undergoing general continual expansion. In Isaiah 42:5, both properties were declared. This is what the Lord says: He who has created the heavens has stretched them out. That's his justification for expansion of the universe. Now, when I read that in the Bible, how I imagined that was people looking up at the sky and imagining God stretching the sky out. That's how, just as fundamental as that, stretching it across the heavens. But in what he's saying, and I've heard this before, this isn't the first time I've heard this, that's positive proof that the Bible is talking about expansion of the universe, and it's bloody not. This is the point that annoys me so much. And the book is completely full of this stuff.
It's total overinterpretation of what's being said from people who didn't have a clue. And let's not forget the fact that historians using a proper inquiries and evidence-based have concluded. Proper historians have concluded that most of the Old Testament patriarchs themselves have not exist. We've had our own expert on, Jason, who has expounded on the fact that the Old Testament patriarchs never actually existed. So, I mean, the very fact, okay, you can say, well, in that framed the story, but it's overinterpretation. It's overdoing the analogy. And I think there's a couple of other things here that I think need worth pointing out. We mentioned that he said, he accepts the science. No, he accepts some science.
True.
He cherry picks the bits of science that he wants to agree with, and he rejects the science that he disagrees with. That's not being consistent. As you say, one way I can take that passage that you've just spoken about, Andy, that God has stretched the universe. Well, stretched implies that he stopped doing it. It's past tense. I know this is grammatical playing with cards as much as they do.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That suggests then that God has finished stretching the universe. He's not stretching the universe. He has stretched the universe. He's finished doing it. When we look in the night sky, when we do the measurements, we found that if he has stretched it, he hasn't finished. But that's, as I say, that's just grammatical playing around. But yeah, as I say, overinterpretation. I find that, when people do quote the Bible and state that this proves our science, they're either A, wrong, B, overinterpreting, C, being trivial, or D, I can't remember the last. They're either lying, lying.
But it's true. I mean, this is exactly what we've got to say as it is, because as I say, I've read this book, or as much as I possibly can in the time. I'm going to finish it off as well, because I do want to finish it off. But it from my eyes, and I am an atheist, as it's blatantly obvious that I'm not going to agree with him, but I wanted to give him a chance. I'd like to give people a chance to see how they're going to explain something, how they talk about it. What's the reasoning behind it. And it is apologetics. It's not science. If anybody reads this, what it's doing, it's using science as an apologetic tool, rather than looking at science and taking whatever the evidence is and following that evidence, which is what science actually is. Whether you get it right or wrong. And this is the other thing that, when I saw the piece of video between him and there was Kent Hovind there was Ray Comfort and Ken Ham, who were all on the old Earth creationists. And he came over, and this is the other thing, he came over as far more lucid, far more intelligent, far more calm than they did. And I think
let's face it, Morph would probably come up more.
Yeah, absolutely. But he came over as a very, very calm, lucid human being. And I think what will happen is that there's going to be a lot of Christians who just sort of go, that feels much better for me. That feels much more sort of in relation to the way the universe is. Because if you're a Christian, you believe in God and you believe in Jesus. That's the whole point of this. And he's a Christian apologist who's I think he thinks he's got the sort of answer to pull people through to the next stage, to pull people through to believing in Christianity and fulfilling their faith and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the people like, your Ken Hams are they're just seen as ridiculous even by Christians. I mean, they are just seen as ridiculous, completely ridiculous. I mean, Ray Comfort with the, holding his, do you remember that video of him with the banana?
The banana man. No, he's
the banana man. Look at the banana shape. It's perfect for the human hand.
Yeah. The atheist nightmare.
Can I ask you guys then? So out of these apologists, which one of them would you prefer? Would you prefer the one that goes all out and says, it's all ridiculous, I don't accept the science, and I'm sticking by what my Bible tells me and what the doctrines of my religion tells me? Or would you rather go with the one who's trying to step out of the box, maybe not completely there, but we accept it, just like the gentleman we're talking about, Hugh Ross? What do you think which one of these do you think is better for moving forward?
I don't think any apologist is good for moving forward, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's the point, though, isn't it? This is why I thought this was so interesting. This guy was so interesting because what he's trying to do, and there's a few others that are a little bit like him. I think what they're attempting to do is to sort of take apologetics into the 21st century and go, all that stuff that these young Earth creationists talk about is demonstrably wrong. Okay. Now, for me, I quite like that because you've now got this conflict of apologetics within the Christian church. Now, I can't think of anything better than having two real big camps, old Earth and new Earth creationists, fighting it out because neither of them are right. But it's great to let them go and fight.
Yeah.
Saying that, Andy. One of the reasons why I was able to make my way out of religion was just that very thing you were talking about. Just two people in the same camp arguing. When I see a set of Christians arguing with another set, it brings me joy because then you can look at this lot saying you're wrong, and this lot saying, and you're there thinking you're all wrong.
As I say, yeah.
And you think the arguments Camp A is using, if only they would flip it around to themselves, they'll find that they would debunk themselves. If only they would be brave enough, to the arguments they're using for Camp B, right? Say, oh, this is what I think you're doing wrong. If they could just flip that around, they realize, oh, we're all wrong.
I mean,
sorry, Rich, carry on.
I was just going to say, yeah, and I think as I say, they're both wrong. They're both using flawed logic. They're both using flawed evidence. They're both using the same methods. They're both cherry picking. They're just cherry picking in different degrees. And I think one of the things that we need to do is when we are engaging with this new apologists, if we call them the new apologists, is we just have to carry on pointing out the fallacies that they are using. So, for example, with this guy, Hugh Ross, he's presented sort of scientific, in scary quotes, predictions made by his type of old Earth creationism. And you can point out, I'm sorry, but those predictions are vague. Those predictions are not something that you can actually prove. They're not falsifiable. They're interpretations made after the fact to fit your own prior assumptions. You can, there's no way to actually test these so-called testable claims. You say it's testable, but it turns out that they're not. You're trying to fit things, onto things that we all already know, and you're saying that they are hypotheses without actually stating what the hypotheses are. And when you dig deeper into this individual character, there is some absolute ridiculous things that he's said over the years. So take, for example, in one of his books, he's claimed that UFOs come from the devil. And that can be tested because, I quote, according to the Bible, demons only attack people who go into the occult and make themselves vulnerable. Therefore, people that dip into the occult are more likely to be attacked by demons. Therefore, I have proved that demons are real because they've been attacked. And I'm sitting there thinking, what? All that is needed to prove demonic involvement is to study people who claim to have had encounters with demons. He has said that. That is his science. So he can take some good science in astrophysics that he has his PhD in. But when you start looking at in depth, in detail of what he said, he is talking absolute nonsense. And
I think people who make pronouncements about demons should spend a few hours in a psychiatric unit talking to the patient,
Mm.
because I'm afraid to say, well, I'm not afraid, but the reality is that many patients experience psychotic delusions, which include devils and demons and bad voices and threatening voices and ideas,
Yeah.
which sometimes they identify, especially if they come from a religious background, as devilish or satanic.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I think exorcism, sanctioned by the church, is probably one of the most evil things I've ever come across.
Mm. Mm.
You know,
And in fact,
Can I?
because it just hurts people who are mentally ill so bad.
At one point, I do want to make here, you know, him linking UFOs to demonic activity is really interesting, because when you look at the psychology behind it, in the days before the UFO craze took off, people would claim demonic possession, people would claim encounters with demons. And then when you read the UFO literature and you read the encounters with aliens and the so-called sort of abduction stories and all of that, they're actually identical. They've just swapped demons for UFOs. And I bet this Ross bloke would say, because the psychology of these are identical, it proves that aliens and UFOs are actually demons.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
Rather
they've been
than-
visiting Earth for all this time.
Yeah.
Can
Go
I?
on, Esther.
So apologists like Hugh Ross, I think what he's trying to do is not so far-fetched. It's not so when you look at people like himself, I go in thinking, what is he trying to prove? Is there an agenda here? Is there a motive? Is there a hidden, agenda? And I may be wrong, but you have to think there are books to be sold. There's
Follow the money.
there's money to be made.
Mm.
There's fame. There's I've got to make a name for myself in this
Paid lecture
field
circuit.
of exactly
Which is already on anyway, and he's already writing books. He's already been asked to come on to chat shows, and you can
Exactly.
just imagine
So
sort of
to me,
Christian
I
leaning
think
chat shows
Mm.
wanting something like this on.
Well, we've asked
But
this
you-
question. We've asked this question before about some of the more traditional apologists. You know, are they lying? Are they totally deluded? Are they willfully ignorant? Or are they being willfully dishonest?
Well,
And
I think that there are some who believe in the non-overlapping magisteria idea, whereby you've got a supernatural realm which can't be proved, can't be even identified through science, and I don't know whether he's one of those. I suspect he's one who is already psychologically committed to God and is therefore looking to interpret science in order to bolster up his belief.
Yeah, that's how I see him as from the beginning. Is someone who's very much like that, who actually believes it. He does actually believe it. I don't think he's lying. I think what he's deluded himself into a story, a narrative.
he believes he's being honest.
Yeah, just trying to justify with the science that he knows through astrophysics, and he's put two and two together to try and build a worldview that seems plausible to him.
The thing about science is that its very principles and bases is that it's about the material world, the world of reality. It's not about some supernatural realm which actually exists only in our heads.
Yeah.
So it cannot actually confirm or investigate the supernatural realm, it seems to me. And that leaves open a door for people who already believe in God to say, well, God is there. And this is a problem we're always going to have. We've always had it. I don't see any way that it can easily be
Oh no, it's a human trait, isn't it, to want to believe some of these things? I mean, some of us have managed to shake our way out of it, but I'm sure that I've got beliefs in somewhere in my head which are unprovable or are unreasonable, which I don't realise that I have. The only difference, I think, is when I discover that I have a belief that's unreasonable, I stop believing it.
I think this is the thing. It's a lot of the things that we tend to do, and I've done this myself, is that. And I, when I was a kid, I used to love conspiracy theories. I used to love, JFK assassination theories, and I'd read a lot of books about those sort of things and UFOs. I used to love UFOs, Men in Black and all that. I love all that stuff, and I love it in fiction. I mean, I enjoy that sort of fiction.
Adore it in fiction.
Yeah,
Absolutely adore it.
It's like I read the Illuminati. I don't know if you read Illuminatus. The Robert Anton Shea books, which are bonkers. But it's just literally just conspiracy after conspiracy theory written into a storyline, and I love all that.
They're fun, and we don't take them seriously. That's the difference.
Of course, no, it's fiction. But the great thing is that a lot of conspiracy theory is sort of laced into actual genuine facts. MK Ultra and all that sort of stuff. It's really interesting how that works. But it's our cultural view of what we believe, and this goes far beyond belief in God. This goes into sort of QAnon and all the other stuff that is mad out there. Some of the stuff that's out there at the moment, this Antifa and right wing fascist white supremacy. You just get this whole gambit of stuff, and people absolutely 100% believe in information that is not true. And this is the whole point of it. True. Religion is no different. Religion is exactly the same. It's just another con. It's just another big conspiracy theory.
In fact, it's the original. It's the original con.
It's the original con. Yeah.
I heard a saying recently. Science is in the business of proving itself wrong.
Yeah.
Religion, on the other hand, is in the business of trying to prove itself right.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
I think religion doesn't bother proving it; just claims it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so true. I mean, this is the whole point of science: is that because there was in that video with the old Earth creationists and the young Earth creationists, there was one of them that said, but science gets things wrong all the time. For centuries, they've got things wrong.
Yes.
And it's like, that's the whole point. It's like you come up with an idea, you run with it for a bit, and then you realize it's wrong and put something else in place. And that's the whole point of learning.
I remember that wonderful quote. There was a video that was of the late great Richard Feynman talking about the scientific method. And he says, scientific method, you start with a guess. And then you examine the evidence. And if the evidence doesn't match your guess, the guess is wrong. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. It doesn't matter how elegant it is. It doesn't matter how much you love this idea. If it isn't supported by the data, it is wrong.
Because there was a scientist, or again on another video I was watching, which said, he goes, I love string theory. It's so elegant. String theory is so elegant. But there's going to come a time when I'm going to have to sort of put it to one side and say, no, that's probably not the route. I need to go down on it to find something else. But it's so beautiful. But so there is that.
It's beautiful and the mathematics works.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we have no way of testing it.
Yeah.
So it is at the moment, at best, a hypothesis.
But I just love the pain of this scientist. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But at some point...
But eventually, if string theory doesn't, and it
produce results, basically.
Yeah, if it doesn't produce testable results, which it hasn't done, the scientific community will eventually abandon it.
Yeah,
and they will.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's already beginning to happen, isn't it? So
it is beginning to happen.
Whereas religion would find a book, an ancient book that's over 1,000 years old, and try to fit modern day science into their book, try to tell us, but my God predicted. It just doesn't work. It just
And
doesn't.
as I say, no, it doesn't. And as I said earlier, in those occasions where it does seem to line up, it's usually trivial, inconsequential. It's the other one was it was already known, but in other cultures, but people tend to ignore that. So, for example, in terms of the Quran, a lot of the claims about the science in the Quran, and it wasn't known before. Well, actually, it was known before. It was known by a lot of the Greek scientists and the ancient Greek philosophers. And where was ancient Greek thought preserved? It was preserved in the Islamic world while the Christians were burning it to the ground. And lo and behold, a lot of the Greek knowledge appears in the Quran, including some of the areas that the Greeks actually got wrong. So actually, when they claim that, it's come from our book, again, it didn't. It actually was already known. It has actually come from somewhere else. And some of the things that are claimed are totally trivial. And some of the things that are claimed are totally wrong, which when you point out is totally wrong, the apologists try to either excuse or deny.
Hmm.
Can I just finish off this with one thing that sort of made me smile a little bit was in that discussion between old Earth creationists and new Earth creationists. So you've got Hugh Ross on one side with a couple of others and Ken Ham and Ray Comfort on the other. And Hugh Ross was trying to explain that the days in Genesis weren't literal days; they were eons. They were, so it stretched out over time, but it was just like an eon and things like that. And Ken Ham picked up his Bible and waved it in his face and goes, "Where does it say millions of years then? Where does it say millions of years?" And I'm just thinking, this is brilliant. Go on, fight.
And to be fair to Ken Ham for a second, there's words that I never thought I'd say very often. In that particular book, he's right.
Yeah, but it's not convenient with the science, is it?
No, that's the other problem. That's the big problem with Ken Ham, and the fact that these old Earth creationists, as I say, these old Earth creationists and these young Earth creationists, they do appear to hate each other even more than they hate us.
Yeah, I know, which is quite nice, really. Can we just look at the sidelines and go in? Yeah, they're both wrong.
Grab the popcorn.
Yeah, we just get something like this out.
Yeah,
there's the millions of years.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, guys, I think we had a good chat about that. If you've got any queries on any of this stuff, or you got any comments you want to put into the post, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're really beginning to get there now. We're getting some good subscribers on, and
some good discussions going in. And so, please.
Yeah, there is some good discussion. So if there's anything you want us to talk about and have a look at, then do it. As long as we enjoy ourselves, that's the main thing. That's why we do these things. We have a bit of fun.
Oh yeah.
You know the videos what you're talking about. Would you put that in the?
Yeah, I'm actually going to do a few clips from that and put it into
fantastic.
And I'll put some of the clips into this as well because I'll put them in as well. It's just going to be fun anyway. Listen, guys, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time. Ta-da.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and don't forget to click that like button. Also, make a comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.